NDC Lewter here, and I want to welcome you to a joint exercise and activity that is being co-sponsored by the Hollywood Full Gospel Baptist Cathedral, the Queen's Ministry of New York City, and Lewter Life Coaches. This is session two. Actually, I think this will be the first session for this particular group, but this is our Wednesday night a small group ministry for grief management. I am your co-host, Andy C. Lewter, and I'm joined in terms of facilitator by Rosalyn Lewter Aaron. And I'm delighted for those of you who are here, and we're going to get started right away to maximize and to optimize the time that we have available tonight. Beloved, would you join me for a word of prayer? Oh Lord our God, we are indeed grateful and thankful for this time, this precious opportunity to abide in this sacred space and sacred place as we seek your will for our lives, having weathered the storms of life and having survived the ordeal of grief. We come now to learn more of its impact upon our lives and how we might manage it more effectively. Now, O Lord, might all that we do prove pleasing in thy sight. This is our prayer. Amen. Well, I am so delighted and so excited that you are here. And I'm equally excited that our facilitator, my sister Rosalyn Lewter Aaron, has joined me in this exercise and this endeavor. And I am going to yield, invite her to come with some comments. And then I think just about all of you, with the exception, Sister Cummings, did you share last Tuesday?
No, this is my first.
Okay, so this is your first. So all of you will be sharing with us your experience with death, loved one. I'll let Rosalind kind of walk you through what that exercise will look like tonight. But help me welcome Rosalind Lewter Aaron as she leads us in the direction that God would have her to go. We're in your hands, Sister Aaron.
God bless you, Bishop. Thank you so much. And good evening, everyone. I am so delighted to be with you. And Bishop, don't share the screen just yet. I just want to do a bit of an overview, if I may. What I would say is greetings and welcome, my sisters, and I suppose my brothers will come when they come. But I'll say my brothers and sisters because my brother is a brother. So as you reflect on why you are here, one of the benefits of this intimate setting is that it allows all of us to share with each other without feeling that we're making each other feel uncomfortable. For those of you who did not share with us last week, I'm going to request that you share with the group your name, the name of your deceased loved one, their relationship to you, as well as when and how they passed away. Although the feelings, emotions, and experiences are unique to everyone here can understand and identify with your pain and your sorrow. As I indicated last week, everyone's grief journey and pathway to healing is unique. Last week, we identified the 5 most common stages of grief: denial, anger, depression, guilt, and acceptance. We began with denial because it is the only stage among the 5 that comes with any practical degree of predictability. This week, we will explore and ask you to actually weigh in on another stage of grief, and that is anger. As you will see, it is important to note that it is not uncommon for our anger to be connected with guilt. But let's examine the ways in which anger itself is manifested in your experiences. Grady Memorial Hospital staff were amazing. They were patient, helpful, informative, and all around wonderful, save one. I've since referenced her as a real, all the way live Nurse Ratchet. It's as though she was trying to bait me into a confrontation that I assure you all was not going to happen. They had my beloved. I could not run the risk at any point of saying or doing anything amiss that could result in his mistreatment. So months later, the very thought that she could have been on duty the night my beloved drew his last breath. And let me say, I don't know that she was. She probably wasn't. But just the thought of her being there made me angry. Months later, listening to the numbers of my fellow citizens perishing at the hands of COVID-19, seemingly out of nowhere, I asked, well, what if a person dies from cancer, diabetes, heart attack, or complications from a stroke, like my beloved? They don't matter. Why are they not reflected in those numbers? My anger, my response was neither logical nor true. He mattered to me. He certainly mattered to God in that he was no longer in pain. But I had to intentionally, beloved, mentally unpack it in order to get on the pathway to healing. Most things that call into question our control over the matter can lead one to a feeling of a personal loss of that control. Now, that can translate into frustration and ultimately anger. So let's accompany Jesus as he travels and finally arrives in Bethany, the home of Lazarus, Martha, and Mary. John 11:33, and the New Living Translation puts it like this: when Jesus saw her weeping and saw the other people wailing with her, a deep anger welled up within him, and he was deeply troubled. Where have you put him? He asked them. So you can only begin on the pathway to healing when you determine that what you're experiencing is normal. And when you choose to unpack it, as it is written in St. John 32, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And that is what I referenced when I unpacked how illogical my anger was, but the anger itself was normal. So following Bishop's invitation to those of you all who did not speak last week, and we certainly want to hear your story tonight, I'm going to ask you to join me in setting a mood as we continue on this twofold expedition, if you will, of the grief journey and the pathway to healing. Bishop?
Thank you, Sister Erin, so very, very much. Um, Again, this group began with numbers like 25 to 30 individuals, but we purposely, with great intentionality, pared those numbers down to 8 to 10 people per group. And so that's why we now have a Monday group, a Tuesday group, and then, of course, this now is our Wednesday group. We did that for multiple reasons. Number one, we wanted to make sure that we had ample time to hear all of your voices. If we had kept the group around 25 and 30, that would have certainly limited the amount of time that we would have had available to hear the stories that we are soliciting from you this evening. But secondly, we want to create family and community. And we can only do that if there is a trust factor involved. And it's somewhat challenging to extend your trust to a large number of people. And so I am going to encourage you to see these other persons who are on the screen as family and individuals who indeed have your best interests at heart. Let me insert this. Last night, and of course, some of these communications and exchanges and dialogue and conversations become a bit intense and perhaps even emotional. We had that to happen on last evening. And I'm so happy to say that in response to the outpouring of that heart, even after the session, those who were in the session reached out to the person in question, the person who was struggling, just to lend a voice and lend an ear. And so I'm already seeing the creation of community and the
Mm.
formation of family. And I'm hoping that this group tonight, you four, and there are 8 in this group. I do know a few called and they had some other commitments, but my hope and my prayer is that you will see the other persons in your section in this module as part of your support group and family. So I am going to start now by asking you to do that which Sister Erin has outlined. If you would give us your name, the name of the deceased, and then give us an overview of the circumstances of their passing and how that has impacted your life. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Rosalyn. She has some material that she wants to share with us, but we want this to be as interactive and as intimate as possible. So I'm going to ask Sister Bachelor if you would begin with us tonight.
Yes. My name is Deborah Batchelor. My deceased is Anwar Batchelor, my son. He was 40 years old. He passed in Florida at work on August 1st, 3 days before his birthday, August 4th. He was at work and had a heart attack at work. It's been hard, not expected. He had health issues, but was recovering. He left me with 3 beautiful granddaughters. Um, he was a good man, a good son, a good husband, a good father, a good brother, a good person. And I miss him. And it's been, like I said, August 1st, he passed and left us here. And I'm struggling.
Thank you. Thank you for your transparency. Thank you for your honesty. And do know that this is a safe space and a safe place. And you don't have to feel the restraints. We're family. We all have experienced not the same thing, but similar experiences. And so you have a listening ear and some strong shoulders that are
Yeah.
taking this journey with you. Elder Hawkins, would you share with us tonight?
Hey, so you can call me Elder T. I try to make everything very simple. Um, my aunt, who is my grandmother's sister, so she's my great aunt. Her name was Janie Phillips, and she passed away from cancer in the very early stages of COVID. So I think it was around May 2020. And what bothers me the most was, even though we did the virtual service, I'm not sure if you guys remember my mother mentioning that we couldn't be there. And every other person that's passed away in our family, we've all gathered around the person, the family, to be there for each other. And it kind of makes me a little sad that we weren't there for my uncle and my cousin, because I feel like out of all the family members, they probably needed us the most, on top of COVID being in the way. So it's been a little bit distance of the, no, I shouldn't say that. It's been a little bit difficult because of the distance and then because of the COVID. But I thought I was okay with the situation because it is 2022 at this point. And it wasn't until my grandmother mentioned maybe 2 weeks ago that my uncle is ready to clean out the house. And that hurt me because I'm the collector in my family. And I usually try to get something from everybody who's passed away. So when my grandmother's brother passed away first, I got a tie from him. When her other sister passed away, I got a dress from her. And I was hoping I could get something from this auntie because she's a teacher, or she was a teacher.
Okay.
And my profession is a teacher. And I just was hoping I could get something from her. So I'm trying my best to see if I can contact my cousins that live in the same area as my uncle to make sure they find something that I can collect from her because I would be so sad if all that stuff goes and I don't have something from her. And like I said, I thought I was okay with it until my grandmother mentioned that. And like I said, it was about 2 weeks ago she said it, and I realized I'm at the angry phase because I didn't really get a chance to grieve with them or get over it because we didn't get to be with each other like we normally do. So when that moment came, I was angry and I don't want to be angry anymore. So that's why I decided to join this group.
God bless.
Bless you, T. And T is my play daughter, and so I feel for you, and your hurt is my hurt, and your hurt is our hurt. Um, your grandmother shared with us the other night her frustration in terms of not being able to go because COVID prevented the family from traveling to South Carolina and being there. So we certainly understand, and I thank you for your transparency. I thank you for your honesty tonight, and do know that we're here. We're here for you. You're not taking this journey by yourself. Sister Cummings, we place ourselves in your hands, followed by Sister James.
Um, on the per there were several um, people that have passed away, um, and I was thinking about when this first came about, and it was honestly um, around
Take your
the
time.
person that passed away was Anwar Bachelor, and it's Debbie's son, who is a very close friend, a family friend, and there was a point where thinking he could be my son-in-law. Um, it was difficult when I got the call because, of course, there was denial and the anger that came. I was angry at him. I became angry at him, and that bothered me. I became angry at myself for, what can I say? What can I say to this family? Do I have the words? Do I have the support to really give them in this time of pain? I can't even imagine losing a child. I can't. Words can't, words are not enough. And that, and of course there's guilt. Did I help him out enough? Did I tell him I loved him enough? Because the calls that came, that was something we did. We said hello. We said, I miss you. We said I love you. Am I able to, to give his daughters what they need? And it's difficult, especially when it's a friend who they're in pain. They are in pain, a lot of pain.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sister Cummings. And again, I appreciate your honesty and even your transparency tonight. And listen, this is intense, and uh, that's why we've designed it to be the way that it is, to give the space and the grace and the flexibility and the room uh, to perhaps express and exhibit some feelings and emotions that maybe you have bound up and have kept hidden or kept concealed or kept suppressed. Um, and of course, Sister Erin will talk about this in greater detail. Uh, but these are your moments. This is your time. And I am convinced that the Lord brought you here because he knows that you need exactly what it is that we're doing. Sister James, so delighted to have you. Sister James was a member of Hollywood for so so many years. Of course, when I became pastor, she decided to uproot herself and to move away to back there, back down south. But she will always be a part of the Hollywood family, and we're just so delighted to see you and have you tonight. Come on and
And
share with us.
and if I just may say, and a part of my family, because she's the godparent of my baby girls.
Sure.
Amen.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I
Good evening.
apologize for being late, but today my oldest brother and I are the only two left in our family, and today's his birthday. So I set up a Zoom meeting for our family to come on and so he could see us because his wife passed away in May. So
Mm.
so Thanksgiving I was there because I knew it was his first Thanksgiving, and then I was there again for Christmas. I went back again so I could be there with him. So we were on Zoom having a little celebration for him. So I apologize for being late.
Right, all right.
My name is Janet James, and my husband, Ronald, passed away February 15th in 2019. He proposed to me on Valentine's Day. And so that last Valentine's Day, we were at the kitchen table, talking about our plans for the following Valentine's Day. But that was not to be. He had back surgery 2 weeks before, and we were getting ready that morning to go to Charleston for his 2-week checkup. And he called about 4:15. He called upstairs and said, "Honey, are you up?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Come down here." So I went downstairs and he said, "Call 911."
Mm. Mm.
And it just seemed like it took them forever to get there. So while they were working on him, I was walking around on the first floor just praising God and asking him, please, save my husband. And that was not to happen. So, I was very, very angry. I came home. We went to the hospital. We came home that day, and there were so many people in my yard waiting for me to get home. I came in the house and they came in. And after a while, I guess maybe 30 minutes or so, I just had to put everybody out. I just needed time by myself.
Mhm.
And the sun was shining so beautifully through that window. I remember it coming from the window upstairs to downstairs. And all I could say was, "God, I don't want to see your son. I don't want to see sun right now." And I'm just too angry. When I wanted your help and I asked you to help me, you didn't do it.
Lord have
So
mercy.
yeah, I went through that. But eventually I got myself together and I was able to thank God that he let us have that last Valentine's Day together.
Mm.
And it's been rough, but I just thank God that I know who he is and I know he's getting me through one day at a time.
Mm.
But I think that's all I have to share.
God bless.
Amen.
Actually,
Amen.
3 weeks before my husband passed away, I had just come back from Florida burying one of my brothers.
Wow.
So it was like 3 weeks later, here I am again. But I have to tell you, people always say to me, I understand how you feel. I lost my mother, and I'm sure they've said it to all of you too. And I have to tell you, I love my family. I love my family. My mother passed, 2 sisters and that one brother. And it all hurt, but nothing compares to this hurt. Nothing.
Mm.
My. Thank you. Thank you, Sister James.
Thank you,
Rosalyn,
Janet.
we're back in your hands.
See if I may share my screen.
Sure. See where you are. Okay.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
It's coming up. It hasn't appeared yet. Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, wonderful.
You're still in edit mode. You're not in presentation mode yet.
So what I want to do is I call this sorrow to triumph, and I want to set a mood from the onset, and then we are going to proceed from there. People are dying. People are crying for a savior to come and save us from this world. Now, God, I'm calling your name, 'cause my world does need change. In Jesus' name. So, God, we need to pull us through. People are hurting while people are searching for a father to come and guide us from this world. Now, God, I'm depending on you. 'Cause only you can pull us through this fight. Then we will be alright. So God, we need you to pull us Well, my brother and sisters, allow me to revisit very, very briefly what we spoke about last week, and that is the denial. This is the only stage of grief in any predictable order. The first reaction to the loss of a loved one is denial. Because in this stage, individuals believe that there has to have been some kind of a mistaken diagnosis or something, because this cannot be happening, because there is a clinging to a false, preferable reality. Denial is normal. But let's begin to take a look at what we want to examine tonight, and that is the anger. Because when the individual recognizes that denial cannot continue, they become frustrated, especially at proximate individuals. And proximate individuals, of course, are those individuals who are the closest to us. Certain psychological responses of a person undergoing this phase would be something like, why me? It's not fair. How can this happen to me? And who is to blame? And why would this happen? When we think about the anger, we think about how after the loss of a loved one, you will notice that the rest of the world is moving around like nothing has happened. People are going to work, going to school, shopping, and playing like everything is normal. But for you, it is anything but normal. So allow me to begin by acknowledging why grief obliterates, erases any sense of normalcy, routine, or regularity, and how the pressure to appear normal can affect the way you grieve. But it's normal. One of the other things that we've come to know is we become frustrated when our normalcy is interrupted. And that's exactly what happens in the grief journey. Persons who are grieving have to recognize and acknowledge that their entire person, their total being has been impacted. People who are grieving do some very strange things. A fairly disciplined or a very organized person may find that things they do routinely can be interrupted. Things like going to your car and you can't find your keys, or completing a fairly repetitive project at work, only for it to be returned to you littered with mistakes that you have never made in the past. Here is where I must issue a serious warning, because when it continues to happen, and this is generally because we haven't really dealt with our grief, it has been known that it may very well result in one losing their job. And then there's the forgetfulness, all of the time and energy that you put into that final event, that homegoing, and then completely forgetting everything that followed their passing, like the homegoing, the memorial, all of these different types of things. More forgetfulness is going to a familiar restaurant and you can't figure out what it is that you should wear. And then when you get there, you've been there dozens of times, but you can't decide on what to order. And then there's the inability to concentrate. And this is why when you're grieving, you are encouraged to be extremely careful before you get behind the wheel of a car. Because when driving, it can cause you to get in an accident because of that lack of concentration, or even get a ticket. So let me ask, have you ever been driving and can't remember the last 10 blocks? It's like that, and that is normal. So let's look at this thing called focus. Your ability to focus changes. Give an example, something that you've been perhaps doing for years. You go to pick your children or your child up from school, and you're on the carpool line, and now it's your turn. And you wait a few minutes and you pull up to the loading area, and you sit there for a few moments, and then you pull off, only to realize just minutes later that your precious cargo is not in the car. You're frustrated, but you also get angry. And not just because you have to turn the car around and go and get back at the end of that line. This is very normal. A student, after a school shooting, acknowledging that before the shooting, they knew all the material for the test that was scheduled for the following day. Afterwards, however, it was as though they had never seen this material before, asking, what has happened to my brain? It's like it all just got wiped away. Lack of focus. It's normal, beloved. And then there are individuals that just want to get on with it. For some, it is not comforting to accept the idea that it is normal for grief to be a painful experience. Their response may be that they don't care that it's normal because they feel that it is not helping them and they just want it to just go away. Then they begin to ask themselves, well, do you think that people might think that my faith is not real because of my grief? And meaning absolutely no harm whatsoever. Some will urge you to be strong, gird up. You're going to be all right. Others may esteem you for not crying or openly grieving. And this is why it is so important to understand that grieving is a totally consuming experience. Here is a proper response to loss. There are good and honorable reasons that you hurt so deeply and for so long. Grief is a celebration of a good gift from God, and it's manifested through our tears. Beloved, whatever you do, resist, resist, resist suppressing your grief. Suppressing your grief is like putting your emotions in a container with limited capacity, and you press it down, you push it down, you move it down as much as you possibly can. And by repressing them, you will eventually seek to bury them. But here's the thing, feelings and emotions are alive. And so you're burying them alive. The problem is that eventually they will be resurrected, but you will not have control over your emotions. They will emerge at inappropriate times when you overwork yourself because you just don't want to deal with it. You just don't want to even talk about it. And then over time, when the overflow, you will be impatient, irritable, and intolerant. You'll find yourself fussing and complaining and whining all the time because of your anger. So, beloved, resist suppressing your grief. Release it, talk about it, and then relax. Before, you were not connecting that your reactions were because you were blocking the feelings of grief. And as you release the emotions, you become more relaxed, thus less irritable. Many people incorrectly assume that it is normal to move through different stages of grief in a sequential way. However, many who have experienced going through grief will assure you that there is nothing predictable or orderly about the grief journey. This can be a biggie. Do the next right thing. One of the things we find is that grief and suffering can immobilize you, almost paralyze you, so that the things that you have done all your life seems to get away from you. It could be something as simple as getting a glass of water to keep from becoming dehydrated. This is something that's very, very important. Taking a shower so that you're not offensive, brushing your teeth. These are things that we've been doing, but we find somehow we're so distracted that the grief has immobilized us. So continue to do what you're doing right now. And that's commit to a bereavement support group and stick with it, where you can talk freely about your grief without feeling like you're causing other people to be uncomfortable. It is hard to imagine of another way to find healing without a bereavement or grief support system or group. It's hard to fathom dealing with the trauma. I have to say it again. It is traumatic, dealing with the trauma of grief in solitude, flying solo on your own with just a couple of books and some videos. I assure you that the bereavement and grief support system or group, that experience can be absolutely liberating. Finally, allow me to encourage your heart. It will get better. When you feel like you can make it just one more day, another week, another month, you start watching the seasons change. There will be little ounces of joy. You may smile or laugh and you won't realize it at the time. But when you do, you'll say, I smiled. I laughed. And it felt good. The Bible says that there is a time to mourn and it will hurt. You'll experience pain and it will hurt for a long time, but it won't hurt forever. It won't hurt with the same intensity that you've experienced. So let's take a look at an exercise that we can do to help move us forward. How do we pen or write a grief letter? Beloved, please know that family and friends really do want what's best for you during this difficult time. However, they are only able to deal with or to share with you what it is that you have shared with them, because they are unclear about your specific needs, and it may result in a more painful outcome. Sister was talking about getting something from each one of our family members, our songbird here. Somebody passes away, your spouse passes away and your best friend comes over. Child, it's time for you to move forward. You need to start getting this stuff together. They go to your closet and start pulling out his things and begin to start saying, we're going to take this to the Goodwill. But you're not ready. You're not ready. For a year, I had the picture of my husband right here in this office with me. And I knew him so well, and I just knew he was saying, Rosalyn, it's time to move forward now. Put my picture away. I took the picture down. I put the stand away. I cried for the next 4 hours. I pulled the stand out. I went and I got the picture and put it back on the stand. And I looked at him and I said, honey, I'm just not ready. And in my preparation of getting ready, because in a couple of weeks, I had begun to be my comical self. And I would say, you know, honey, every day I'm looking in that mirror and I can see those crows crawling across my face, but you haven't aged one day. So when those who are close to you know your needs, they can provide the help that is the best fit for you. So briefly share your experience and your feelings with those who care about you. Let people know what they can anticipate from you. Like Sister Janet said, I just want to be alone. It might be crying. You might want to go to a movie or go to a restaurant that the two of you all would frequent in the past. Share with them what they can do and articulate and say that you find encouraging and consoling. List precise, specific, and practical essentials that they can help you with. So many times people want to be helpful and they'll come in and they'll just start cooking and cleaning. And if that's what you need, that's okay. But if it's not, know how to gently and lovingly say, I so appreciate what you want to do for me, but I would rather do that myself. Finally, personal checkup. This is how, my sisters and my brother, how you're going to track your healing process. You're going to place a check in the box identifying how you're feeling, and then insert the word or words to explain why you feel really bad or okay or pretty good or even great, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and relationally. And so what I will share with you is that when we're finished with this session and I get the recording from it, it will be accompanied by these two attachments: this personal checkup, track your healing process, as well as how to write a grief letter. Bishop, we are back in your hands.
All righty. And again, uh, thank you for the information and the data. And I am sure that these tools that you have identified for this particular session, a grief letter and a checkup, are going to be very, very useful. Now, we have a few minutes, and I always want to reserve some time for you to have input, for you to share your comments and your observations, and then I'm going to turn back to Sister Erin and have her give you just a sneak preview of what it is that we're going to deal with next week. And I encourage you to stick with this. I know it's taking just a little bit of time, but there is a bright rainbow at the end of this journey. And I can't wait for you to get to the end, because there are some benefits and goodies that Sister Erin has prepared, but it is a process and we need to go through the process. So let me pause, invite you to open your microphones. One of the things that is so very, very useful, beloved, is feedback. Sister Erin really needs feedback to know if she's on track, if this is helpful, if it's beneficial, if it's meeting the need. If you need something else, she can only customize and tailor this experience for you if she has some idea and some sense of how you're responding and how you are reacting to the material that she's sharing with you. So if you have questions, she's available to answer those questions. But certainly if you have comments, responses, feedback that you would like to share with her, she welcomes that as well. Don't everybody speak at the same time? Who'd like to go first?
Rosalyn, thank you. Thank you so much. This is very meaningful information. The listing that you gave, one of the statements was normalcy has been interrupted. And I think when people are grieving, that's a big statement, and you forget that. You know, because sometimes when people are around you, you want to make it seem like there hasn't been a huge interruption. And it's the fact that sometimes you have to tell people, just like you said, I would like to do that myself. Or as Sister James said, I need you to leave. And just that statement means a lot. And I remember when my mother died, it was the fact that people were always in the house, constant, you know, and that bothered me. And at that time, I wasn't saved. I was not a church person. So I was like, look, I got things to do. You know, um, my father had passed away 8 months before.
Mm.
I was ready, you know, for, you know, because I didn't know all the protocol and everything that goes along with church. So that was, yeah, my normalcy was interrupted. So thank you. Thank you very
God
much.
bless you. Mm.
One of the things, thank you very much. That was excellent. I knew I couldn't write that fast, so I was taking pictures so I could go back and take notes. But when my husband passed, one of his he used to play tennis in New York, and one of his tennis buddies came down, and he was a psychologist. And I said to him, Neil, I'm going to need help. I know I can't do this by myself. I can't do it. I need help. And one of the things he said to me was that I'm so glad to hear you say that. This was a Caucasian guy. He said because so many African Americans won't seek help
That's right.
because they think it's a sign of weakness. He said, so I'm very glad to hear you admit that you're going to need help. He said, and I hope you go get it. And I did. And one of the things in your letter says to articulate to people what it is you need from them. I can't find that spot right now. Share with them what they can do and articulate what you find encouraging and consoling. And I found that when people come to visit, they would want to talk about everything under the sun, but nobody would want to talk about Ronald. Now, I enjoyed listening to people talk about him and talk about experiences they had with him. And one of the things the guy said is, well, you have to steer the conversation that way. You know, people are afraid that's going to make you sad. But once you start talking about him and you mention his name, then they'll chime in and they'll say something. And I find even now, and it'll be 3 years in February, I still like listening to people talk about him. You know, that makes me feel better.
God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing.
Well, I want to say thank you, Auntie. This Lewter family has definitely been there for me. I don't know if you remember, Bishop, when Elder Cherie passed away, you actually had to come save me from work because I had cursed out my boss and she kicked me off the premises and was going to call the cops on me because I was so angry that I had turned up. And like Sister Diane said, I wasn't truly saved then. And I thank you, Daddy, for picking me up that day and getting me to safe ground so I wouldn't misbehave myself to get in trouble more. And I definitely want to say thank you right now, Auntie, for doing what you're doing because that grief letter, I think, is going to help me to get through this process. Because like I said, we didn't get that chance to grieve. So maybe if I can write to her or something, I won't feel so upset that we missed out. You know, it's not our fault. It was COVID that tore this situation to shreds like this. So I think the letter might help me feel better about it. Thank you.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you for sharing. Sister Deborah, unmute.
No, you just muted yourself.
Unmuted.
Okay. We can hear you.
I can't.
We're good.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. I'm grateful for this list because I've been going through all of these things here. The anger, the blaming, the guilt, feeling out of control of the situation. This has been, letting me know that I'm normal. Because I was feeling like, am I going to ever get over this? Even though it hasn't been that long, it's only been like since August, but he was my purpose from a baby, you know what I'm saying? So thank you.
God bless you. God bless you. Permit me to share one thing. I remember someone called me from the church when Michael passed away. And I commenced to say I had spoken to him the night before he passed away. And I began to talk about it. She said, oh, no, don't talk about that. You don't want to talk about that. You want to move on. And I remember the first thing that came to my mind was, I thought you called to comfort me. I need to say this. I need to speak this. And so whatever it is that we need to do, it's okay. It's normal. And I will say this, and I appreciate you trying to write it all down and taking screenshots and all that good thing. My sister, that's just like you, the teacher in you. However, I will say that you will get this, you'll get a recording of the entire thing, and you will also get the documents, the support tools.
Thank you.
As you all will. Bishop?
Okay. Can you spend just a minute, Sister Aaron, sneak previewing next week? Kind of give a glimpse, a peek behind the curtain as
Yes,
to what it
indeed.
is, because this has been a very organized and orderly approach to this topic, and so it's not spontaneous, it's not impulsive, but it is very deliberate and very intentional. Can you share with those tonight what it is they can look forward to next week?
Yes. Next week, we are going to talk about guilt and the things that contribute to the guilt and how we can tackle it, how we can manage it, understand it in order to move forward. The one of the final things that I would say is that we are all still in the earth realm for a reason. We have a purpose. God has given us a purpose. So clearly he's not finished. And as we wind all the way down, we're going to begin to look at and explore how to maximize that as we transition from the grief journey to the pathway to healing. They are, mathematically speaking, they're not congruent. They're not parallel. They are two separate tracks and they don't move at the same time, at the same pace. However, this community of faith, of love, of hope, and of sharing will be priceless when it's all over, because the journey is really just really beginning. It's been, well, it'll be 2 years this year with Michael, so I can certainly identify Sister Janet with what you're saying, because it's hard. It's hard.
Well, if there's no additional comments, listen, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Stick with us. This is a journey, but there is a bright side in your future. So this takes up all of our time. I thank you for yours. We look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, go in peace, go in joy, go in love, and go in happiness. For the author of Peace, Love, Joy, and Happiness goes with you. Amen. We'll
God
see you
bless
soon.
you.